Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Truth Will Set You Free, episode number 37. Yes, 37. This has always been one of my lucky numbers. I don't know why, but I always like number 37. We have some awesome guests on for this episode. It's going to be hopefully the beginning of many conversations that we're growing towards. Now that we have a new president, we've got a new administration, we've got new politics coming into play. It is too much to be inside of one echo chamber and to not hear the other side and to just be preaching to each other. So the core purpose of Truth Will Set You Free is to get to the bottom and core purpose of truths, and at the same time also teach everyone out there that you can disagree civilly and actually have a productive debate where you can learn a little bit of something from each other. I'm very, very excited. As usual, we got the Primetime Patriots crew in the house. Casey, the man, the myth, the legend, the beard, if you want to get weird with it, weird beard guy. And no, we are not pulling a cash. We actually were on time. We had a lot to discuss because we've got a great panel today. So that is what's going on. And as of right now, if anybody is wondering in the comment box, Biden is the president right now. So just want to be very clear about that. So just to spread that out there. But we want to make sure that we are holding everyone accountable, both sides. So we're going to get started in about 1 minute. Share this out there. This is Truth Will Set You Free, episode number 37. We are going to be talking about the difference in media, how we communicate, how the media communicates to us, and how that some people don't even know what's going on. We also have Moderate on the episode that is not a big fan of Trump, and we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about the concept of deprogramming and how that actually does not lead to unity, or maybe it does. I don't know. And we're also going to talk about Biden's first few days in office. So getting started right here, 30 seconds countdown. Share it out there right now, and we'll also give updates on Cash Lee Kelly as well. I know Casey's talked to him. I think Suni might have. Blake, I have as well. And I'm going to tell you about my funny story today, why I'm covered in mud. Good talk. Let's get the show started. All right, let's get the party started. What do you guys say? My name is Anthony Russo with Be the Change. We have a link tree now, which I'll go ahead and throw on the bottom of the page at one point. And I've talked to Suni quite a bit, and we are going to be Suni. I've talked to Erica quite a bit, and we are sorry, Suni, not you. We are going to be shifting over Cash's Patreon over to the Be the Change page, where we continue to put his content. As you guys know, his Patreon was taken down. So that's how we're going to do on that. So patreon.com/BeTheChangeUSA. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up really quick for you guys. We're going to be doing different banners, giving you the updates on stuff as we go. Concert Avengers will be tomorrow night as well. Let's see if I could throw this up there. Patreon.com/BeTheChangeUSA. We do have our podcast up and running still. So if you go to #BeTheChange.com, there is a section on the top for podcasts. So pretty much any episode that you might have missed to this point should be all up by the end of this week, and then continually from that point. And for the Primetime Patriots crew, we're going to start throwing you guys up there as well. What else we got on Mr. Cash Lee Kelly? If you guys want to do this, and I will probably be doing a live later tonight as well from his YouTube and from his Facebook. We don't know how much longer that'll be up for. So we'll get that going as well. For this show, for any support you want to give to Be the Change, we of course have the Patreons as well, and you can also do the super chat on YouTube. So we do take the super chat. So any of that stuff you guys would rock for. Thank you guys very much. What's up, Truth Seeker? What's going on? All right, let's go ahead and introduce our main crew. I'm going to go ahead and bring Suni and Blake up from Primetime Patriots. Suni, Blake, what's up, brothers and sisters?
We're chilling, man. I'm actually excited to have this conversation.
Me too. Sorry if you hear noises. Nick's aggressively emptying the dog food into the dog bowl.
He's aggressively emptying the dog. That's weird. Is that like an enema thing? I don't know.
It's a gay thing. You wouldn't understand.
I guess not. All right. I'm going to bring Casey up as well. Casey,
Well,
what's
guys.
going on?
Not much. Definitely don't have anything going on with aggressive dog food stuff, but that's cool.
You're just jealous.
What is happening over there? Oh, that's good stuff. That's why we can't have nice things. If anybody wants to know about my day, I got my RV stuck in the mud.
We
And,
don't.
I have mud on my clothing, on my shirt, on my pants, and it was $250 to get it towed out. A 40-foot RV, and I've now destroyed the front yard of the place I just started renting. So go me! It's been an awesome day. Soon I'll send you the photos. Yeah, and I'm drained. I'm a little tired. So guys, before we really get started, make sure you share this out there. We're gonna have a great conversation. The one thing I want to tell you guys, I'm leaving it up to our crew in the box right now. I'm leaving it up to you guys. What we have started with Streetlights, Be the Change, this group, is to learn better than most conservatives, because I know we have a predominantly conservative audience, to listen to other people. We can respectfully disagree. We can say why we disagree, but we should not be mean to anyone making comments. We're going to do the best we can to monitor those. I've got Nikki backstage watching that, but we've had productive conversations before. But I feel like it's been a while since we had a really good, besides Jay Kennedy, had a really good discussion. Diane, thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right. I guess what I really want to start with before we intro the guests, I usually do a monologue. I didn't write one this week because there's just so much going on. But there was something by a guy on Instagram that I read. His name's Amir Zodom, I believe. And he talked a whole thing about, think about this before you cancel someone for their political beliefs. And I think that's really, really important to look at when we are talking about, having these conversations. So think about this before you cancel someone. And he said, how can you call for unity yet be so quick to cancel someone because of differing views? If you're so secure in your beliefs, have a conversation with the people you disagree with most to demonstrate your knowledge. How will disrespecting and canceling someone for thinking differently bring this country together? In order to create more unity in this country, we should not have to fear losing friends, loved ones, or jobs simply for having nuanced conversations at the very least. We should create the standard to hear each other out. Remember that 6 + 4 and 5 + 5 both equal 10. There's two different equations. They produce the same result oftentimes. Both sides of the political spectrum have the same goal in mind, yet have different ways of getting there. Instead of arguing which way to a common solution is better, let's first recognize our mutual desire and discuss ways to get there. And in regards to Donald Trump, because I think this is an important topic as we're going to be talking about why Biden or why Trump, etc., in this episode, we got to remember there are women, Black, Hispanic, gay, transgender people who do actually support Donald Trump, and their voices matter and speak for themselves. One being in the corner of the screen. To say that someone supports Donald Trump, meaning they support a misogynist, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, and transphobic person, just doesn't add up. There are clearly more to the story. I find it hard to believe that the millions of diverse people who support him would vote to suppress themselves. Instead of dismissing those who support him, try hearing them out and understanding their point of view. Could talk a little bit more about Black Lives Matter, but if you want to follow this guy, he had a great intro. It's AmirXodom, Amir Zodom. So that's kind of the whole basis of our conversation. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests on this episode. It was an accident. I took care of it. Leave me alone, Michelle. All right. Let's go ahead and start with, I'm going to bring up Jay. Welcome to the screen, my friend. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Go ahead and let everybody know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm here in Los Angeles. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've started 2 businesses, lived in Africa for 4 years in Uganda. I've worked in big tech, and I've generally been on the progressive liberal side of the spectrum in terms of politics these last 10, 15 years. But at the same time, I'm from Arizona. I have a lot of friends who grew up conservative, and I've learned how to have good conversations and make friends across the political divide. So great to see you again, Anthony. We had a conversation and continuing it.
Yep, Jay and I met at Hive in I guess 2018, and we had a mutual discussion just regard. What's that? Is he frozen? Jay, for us, there he's back. All right. We might have you
Yeah, all
restart.
right. Could you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Now we
There-
can.
There's a chance
Oh,
if
do I need to restart?
you might have to restart. There's a chance we might have to just take your picture down, and that might
go
speed
ahead.
up your connection. Possibly. Let me see if I can. Or you could reduce your camera settings. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Tyler. Let him introduce himself as well. Tyler, come on up to the screen, and then you're smooth now, Jay. There's a little camera. There's an option for your camera. Just reduce your camera quality, and that should speed you up.
Okay, I can go ahead and do that. Unless you can hear me clearly now.
You're better now. Tyler, what's going
Okay.
on, brother? Go ahead and introduce yourself. Most people probably know you from my comment section.
Yeah, you may have seen one or two of my comments, I guess. I guess I was born in Iowa. I grew up in St. Louis. I lived in Kansas for 10 years, so like I'm Midwest through and through. I've been moderate in my political views right up until 2016, where I saw a little bit of a shift, mostly around the infamous Trump, who I'm here to talk about a little bit. So,
what high school did you go to, Tyler?
Oh, the St. Louis question, Parkway North, same as Tebby.
Oh, you went to okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I was Parkway Central. I played. Are you the same age as Josh?
Yeah. We were same grade.
You know, it's interesting, and I think it's going to lead into our first question. But before that, I kind of want to get your background and political beliefs. But Tyler, Tebby and I had about an hour and a half discussion, and a lot of it really was based in the fact that he disagrees. He was very nice in disagreement, which was nice. We had a great hour and a half discussion. We both raised our voice a few times, but ultimately the one thing we realized was a lack of information if you only watch one side of media, and that's huge. And that is going to be probably the first thing we're going to discuss. But with that said, I want you guys, Tyler, since we're on you right now, explain a little bit of your political beliefs, your background, why you decided to go, non-Trump starting in 2016.
Yeah. All right. So basically, up until 2016, I was firmly in the, both sides, red, blue, or both sides of the same coin. They just alternate screwing us back and forth. To me, the real problem in this America right now is like money in general and the influence in politics. And I see that on both sides of the aisle. And I never really saw a distinction between those two things. And then Trump came along and he added basically a whole bunch of hateful rhetoric to the mix that was just kind of unprecedented. And I think it can be demonstrated through statistics such as rise of hate crimes over the years from 2016 on. It goes up year after year. The FBI has statistics. I think he riled a whole bunch of people up with the way that he talked, personally, and the rhetoric that he used. And it was enough to get someone like me, who I didn't give a shit about politics up until that point, but it got my attention. And I feel like should speak to something on its own.
Absolutely.
And I have a whole bunch of examples we can go through too.
I got you. Yeah, we'll get there definitely, because one of our topics is going to be why not Trump, why Biden, and that'll be part of, I guess,
You're framing the question wrong there. See, I don't even want to pretend to support Biden. That's just I feel like Trump was just a cancer to the whole system.
Okay, that will be the way that,
Biden has got his own skeletons in his closet. Don't get me wrong, but we're comparing apples to oranges a little bit.
Okay, well, Suni, go ahead.
Can you be specific? When you're talking about hate crimes or
yeah,
just certain things. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. So you guys are familiar with dog whistling, right? So there's a couple of key terms that Trump used that were racist dog whistles. So America First being one of them. And I have a picture I want to share with you guys. Hold on.
I'm gonna share the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come to you right after this, and then we'll get started on question number 1.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Suni, that's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, bro.
I'm just kidding.
So how do I share screen right here?
If you do share screen, I can bring it up. And then just do your window. Well, let's see.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. All right. Do you see it?
Not yet.
Oh, wait.
I'm gonna write notes so that we can.
That's
Yeah.
I got notes too.
So I have it up in my other
Me
Chrome.
too.
Okay, you have it
What
up
do
in your other window. I don't know why it's not coming up. So what you're going to do is if you see the bottom of the screen, you're going to go ahead and go to share screen. If you see mute, stop cam, mic, share screen, go to share screen on there.
Yeah,
And then it'll give you the option of where you want to bring it up. In the meantime, while you're doing that, Jay, go ahead and introduce your political background and what your beliefs are and why you feel a certain way.
Absolutely. So, I grew up in Arizona. I'm born in Maryland, grew up in Arizona. So I've lived in blue states. I've lived in red states. I've currently living in Los Angeles, where I just moved to from New York. But I lived in Uganda for 4 years, started 2 companies out there, one in clean energy, one in training. So I'm an entrepreneur. I worked in big tech, so I understand Silicon Valley a little bit and both the upsides and the downsides of all of that side. So, basically, I'm definitely on the progressive side of things, but I also believe in making very strong arguments. And I think, as Anthony, we were talking about before this, I'm not here to condemn. I'm here just to have a discussion, represent views, because I believe truly we live in different media ecosystems. And a large reason for a disagreement is that we just don't hear the same information. We're not talking to the same people. It's completely different worlds. When I go to Fox News, it's a completely different world than when I'm on Washington Post or New York Times or BBC or anything else. And so it's like, well, no wonder we disagree when we're just getting information from very different sources. So I'm here to start to bridge the divide and at least represent the liberal viewpoint. You can agree or disagree, but I'm not here to judge.
Perfect. Love it. And in response to Ryder, I know you watch a lot of our shows. Don't leave yet. And this is the exact thing that's going to keep us exactly where we are in this country. There is a divide that's forming, and if one side wants to be a heavy part of it, I don't want our people to be a part of it. Let's just listen to how we have a conversation so that we can better have that conversation. Tyler, I see your screen on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up, and then we're going to get into topic number 1 right after that. So here you go.
All right. So this is, I guess, example number 1. We all heard the America First slogan, I'm sure, at some point during the Trump campaign. Well, it originated from the KKK. And here's a picture. This is not Photoshop. This is history. The other slogan that he would use a lot is love it or leave it. I think you guys probably have heard that one as well. Again, KKK slogan. And look at this, help fight communism and integration. Now, minus the integration part, help fight communism sounds pretty similar to the rhetoric that Trump used as well. So this is just kind of 2 small examples right there of the hateful rhetoric that he had inspired, that he lifted directly from history. And not everybody gets it because not everybody's in those circles. And that's why it's called a dog whistle.
Well, we get what a dog whistle is. You do realize that America First wasn't just a coined phrase.
Right? Love it or leave it.
Love it or leave it is also a known phrase.
Third example, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Can I just
retweeted that?
So I would like to talk on this because obviously being a part of the LGBT community, I know a lot about hate crimes. I just know, is your name Tyler? Okay, so I don't think that you can easily just tie hate crimes to Donald Trump's name. I don't think it goes hand in hand with one man's rhetoric. If you watch, as Jay just said, he watched Washington Post and different things, and it's different rhetoric when you look at Fox News and stuff like that. Just to be completely honest with all of you guys, I don't watch any mainstream media whatsoever. So I'm non-biased. I don't believe in any of the mainstream media. But I can see why you think the things that you do, because if you look at all these different things, if you look at the Washington Post, and I just pulled up a quick couple articles real quick. It says hate crimes rose 17% last year, according to FBI data, which is where you're getting your information from. Hate crimes are increasing alongside Trump's rhetoric. These are the headlines to catch people, and they're going to draw people in and have people have a reaction, which you are doing. And then the FBI hate crimes in USA and San Francisco Chronicle. So based on the media that you're reading, you're definitely going to be persuaded by these headlines and what message they're trying to portray. But a lot of people don't realize, and when you actually dive into the research in regards to why we're seeing an influx in hate crimes in this country, is because the FBI has ordered an additional 1,000 services in order to contribute to the information for the FBI that wasn't established until the year of 2016. So there's more reporting avenues for people to report hate crimes. It's not necessarily that hate crimes are increasing. It's just they're easily more reportable. And you have to also, I'm not saying every single case is like this, because I do truly believe, especially in the gay community, there are hate crimes that exist, but you can't let this distract from the fact that Smollett, remember him, where he faked an entire hate crime on himself, and it just, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. And so to just turn that and place the sole blame on one human for the rhetoric and the rise of hate crimes in this country is not fair. I don't think there's just one contributing factor to the rise of this.
Look, I'm not trying to pin one person. My kind of point with all that is, like, as a president, he's supposed to be uniting, not fanning the fires, and
I'm not
fanning the fires of division. So, like, before he came along, red and blue was already pretty split. He came, he took a wedge, and he drove it right down the fucking middle.
But is that based off of actual facts or what you feel that the man has done? Because that's very subjective.
I'm looking with my eyes and observing.
But a dog whistle is not a fact. A dog whistle is a assumption of a belief system. And
all right, here's another example. He retweeted a video that called for the death to all Democrats.
I never saw that one.
And he also retweeted a video where someone yelled "white power." He deleted that one.
That one, that one I know specifically about. It was deleted within 2 hours. He was golfing that day. And I literally think they're going to make a movie of that. And what it was a bunch of people, protesters and anti-protesters, fighting. And it was stupid that he left that up. And that was one huge issue I had. And he never spoke about it. He was never asked about it, which I thought was weird. But what was the other one that you said really quick? You said, what was the one that he said about?
So there was some political leader. He actually ended up getting arrested at the Capitol riots. But he retweeted, he was in a video saying, the only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. And then, like, this motherfucker, like 6 months later, ended up getting arrested at the Capitol.
Wait, so he retweeted a guy that has said this before, or he retweeted the video of a guy saying only good Democrat is a dead Democrat?
He retweeted the video on his presidential account.
Kyle, I have a question for you. Do you have anything against anybody saying Black Power?
What?
Are you for or not for a Black person saying Black Power?
I don't understand the question.
Do you agree with the statement Black Power? Do you agree if a Black person holds up their hand and says Black Power? Do you agree or not agree with that statement? Are they allowed to say that?
Yes.
Why?
Okay.
Oh,
this is my point.
He's comparing white power versus black power is what he's doing.
I'm not justifying that man saying white power.
All right, fair point. Do you think a president should be sharing a video where someone's yelling Black Power?
No.
Exactly.
I agree. I don't think he should be sharing either. And that's why that one was taken down. Now I remember what you're talking about. The only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. And that was, again, a poor choice of words, but also taken very out of context. I remember seeing this one as well. It was a May 27th video, share the Cowboys for Trump video, which was continued about 30 seconds in, where he explained it, that he was clarifying he meant political death as opposed to physical death. He was very clear. Now, the crowd cheered that statement, unfortunately, but he did respond to that video. I saw that video at the time, and I remember it. And the whole purpose behind it was, in fact, talking about he wanted the Democratic Party done, and used the word death, unfortunately. Now, those are two examples.
The cherry on top of all of his just normal day-to-day.
I don't think that you can ever say the words "America first" are a dog whistle. I think that's I don't see those two dog whistles being valid.
Let Suni chime in on this.
Suni, go ahead.
Okay.
And then we'll go to Jay. Promise.
As you can see, I'm very Black.
Are you?
I love being Black. My children are Black. We're interracial. My husband's interracial. Most of my friends are Black. A lot of them are liberal, but a good portion of them are conservative. So the first person that would be pissed off about racism should be the Black person in the room. This is my question to you. None of these, I'm just going to tell you from a Black person that has some common sense, because a lot of us don't. Nothing you said was racist. Literally zero.
This
None
was.
of it offends me.
That was.
That's very offensive. Telling someone they lose their skin color if they don't vote for you. But a dog whistle isn't racism.
You're right. That's the whole point. It's not overt racism.
It's not racism at all.
Under the surface. It's meant to appeal under the surface.
It's not racism at all.
Look, all I'm saying is one time is an accident. You do it 2 to 3 times. I'm going to start
How many times has Joe Biden said the most racist, degrading things ever towards Black people? Look,
and this is my problem with party politics, is you are justifying all of Trump's actions in relation to Biden. I'm not here to talk about what Biden did. I'm here to talk about what Trump did. And if you can't tell me what Trump did in relation to how Biden is doing, then I feel like you're failing. Your party's failing.
No, he was the president, was he not? When he said these things, he was the president, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a guy that's running for the presidency that talks like trash. Total trash.
Well, he's the president now.
The same entity. Yes, he's the president now.
Well, so again, you're missing my whole point. Is I'm not here to justify what Trump did with what Biden did.
I'm not justifying it. What I'm trying to
the whole problem of party politics.
You won't even let me talk.
Take some introspection of what your candidate did during his tenure, because it wasn't good.
But Tyler, you gave two references that are dog whistles, and then 2 that are that's 4 things total. And
okay,
I want to go. The thing is, I want to get back to the Trump discussion in a minute. Before we do that, I wanted to start this with part of the reason why we have to have these discussions, why we're so separate, is because of the difference in media. And that's what Jay and I discussed the other day. And Vicky, I encourage you to stay listening, because this is how productive conversation continues. The movement is not about conservatism. The movement is about change and how to communicate and how to be better to each other and where do we go from here? And staying in our own echo chambers and yelling about each other is not how we improve. And Jay had a very valid point, which is why him and I talked for 45 minutes yesterday. And it started out with this comment when we're talking about the whole.
Hold on. Before you move on, I'm gonna get my point across.
Okay.
Because I was completely cut off.
Sorry.
I'm not gonna be rude to anybody here.
Okay, go ahead.
The point I'm saying is, if you're going to hold Donald Trump accountable, you need to be looking at Joe Biden the exact same way. Not once did I try to justify anything. I'm telling you, as a Black woman, there's nothing that he said is racist at all.
But personally, that statement is peanuts compared to all the shit Trump has done.
But you gave me you gave us your best, and it's mediocre at best. It's a dog whistle. It's not blatant. Give me a blatant one. You're like, well, the underlying is worse, and we'll get to that in a minute. So, Jay,
can I jump in just real quick? I don't want to spend a lot of time on this topic, but I do want to say that I'll just, as the other probably Biden voter in the room, I'll say this. Biden apologized for that remark. He got a lot of backlash. Forbes, I'm Googling right now. Biden apologizes for a "you ain't black" remark about Black Trump supporters. Joe Biden apologized on Friday for suggesting to Biden. It was a bad comment. It was really shitty. I have a lot of liberal friends. I don't think a single person defended that comment. But Biden apologized and Trump hasn't.
Yeah. I agree with that. Trump never apologizes, ever.
Did he apologize for his 94 crime bill? I mean, look, we could go on and on with this. We can go on and on with the racial undertones and how you actually affected Black lives.
Real quick for 1 second.
On and on with that.
Real quick for 1 second. I, as a commander-in-chief, I'm going to tell you right now that if I'm going to put someone into play, I don't care if they want to talk about this or talk about that, but if someone's going to be put in there to get the job done and they're the leader of the free world and they're making actions to make the American lives better, I don't care if he says, "Oh, I like to go hump trees." I don't care what he says. But at the end of the day, I'm not looking for a president to go tell me what bathroom I can pee in. I'm just not going to, if we're going to sit there and nitpick every little thing about Donald Trump said this, what did he do? I'm talking about actions of Donald Trump. What did he do? If we could sit here and judge his character, I'm not sitting here trying to judge anybody's character, because every single one of us, all 6 of us, have done stupid things in our life, said stupid things, done stupid things, and we all regret little things that we've done. So to go sit there and argue about this man's character, let's talk about the accomplishments of this man.
Let's not act like the office of the president doesn't have standards.
Hey, well, hang on. So we're getting off track here. And that's the part. We can really focus on character and really go on all day on both of these guys. This is the part why I struggle with the red and blue in general. Is because every time since I have been able to vote, we're not putting realistic candidates in my mind to that I think can run the country. Trump did impress me in his 4 years. I'm going to admit that. I didn't vote for him, but he did impress me. But if we're going to just focus on the nitpicking things, like the part that we really need to focus on is uniting and how we're going to solve and discuss these big differences, not about these little nitpicking of, oh, I was offended by this little word, or he's offended by this little word.
Look, I'm not offended. I'm trying to illustrate the divisive rhetoric. So let's all just start with the point here. We all agree that America is super divided right now, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. We all agree that we're probably worse off than we were in 2016.
Right.
Correct? Who was the president during that period of time? Are leaders supposed to unite us or divide us?
Yeah, okay, that brings up a whole wide topic that I do want to get into later. I get that. The one thing I want to correct is Jay, and I think this goes perfectly into our next comments, is we're talking about how the media presents stuff. And you said that Biden apologized for the "you ain't black" comment. He apologized. If you look at the headlines of mainstream media, Biden apologizes. Biden does this. Biden said, whatever. Do you want to know the actual quote of his apology? He said, "Shouldn't have been such a wise guy." That got turned into, in mainstream media, "I apologize." That's not an apology. That isn't "I never should have said it." That is, "I shouldn't have been such a wise guy." And that's how the media on the right never brought that comment up. Probably justly so, because that's not an apology. And then the left is saying he apologized, whereas that's nowhere near an apology or accountability for it. Just to be very clear.
I'm just confused on the unity part.
No, let's talk about actions. If we want to talk about actions.
So that's what Jay and I discussed yesterday. How do we actually communicate and realize that our separation is due to not just our personal social media echo chambers, but it's also the echo chambers in mainstream media? Jay, go ahead and kind of bring up what we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, so Anthony mentioned to me something about deprogramming Trump supporters. And it almost as an aside, as if like he assumed I knew all about this. And I read a lot of articles a day. I Pocket that app. I don't even know Pocket. You can save articles. But it told me a couple of years ago, I'd read 100 books worth of news in the last year. I read a lot of news across a lot of sources, both domestic and international. And I am very well. And the reason for that is because I think every source is biased. I think the mainstream media is biased. I think the non-mainstream is biased. I think everyone on Twitter, I think all of you are biased. I think I am biased. Everybody has bias. Everybody. There's no such thing as unbiased. But I do believe in crowdsourcing. And I think the more angles you can get from more disparate sources, like if the guy in the US and the guy in Uganda is saying something similar, then that tells you that there might be something cutting across some of these biases. So that's why I try to triangulate. And I had not heard anything about this deprogramming Trump supporters. So I Googled it. I went to Google News and I saw that Katie Couric had made some comment about it. I saw there had been a couple of articles that did talk about Trump cultists, although the context to me seemed to imply that they were talking about a minority and not all Trump supporters. And I saw 30 to 40 Fox News articles and other right-leaning media talking about the reaction to that. But it wasn't being in the mainstream. And so I read AOC's quote that said something about deprogramming white supremacy. And I have also seen other quotes that link, oh, if you're part of Trump, you're a white supremacist. I've seen those stuff said by other people. Then I go to Rush Limbaugh's article, and he says his thing, yes, leftists literally want to deprogram 75 million Trump supporters. And to me, that's like 1 + 1 = 3. Like and it's just like, okay, like we're going like 5 steps beyond what the conversation is, because this conversation today is the first time the entire idea of a deprogramming Trump supporters has come up among all of my networks. And I have a lot of liberal friends, and nobody has even started talking about this until right now. So maybe I'm not seeing it, but
PBS's lawyer talked about the very same thing, putting Trump supporter children in re-education camps. A Disney producer put it on Twitter, where he went even further and said, let's throw them all in wood chippers.
There's 330 million people in this country. You can get all sorts of people saying all sorts of stuff. I'm sure if you polled a lot of people, I'm sure you'll get a lot of people. But like I don't know these people. I don't hear about it. So yes,
So
I'm
you
sure
do.
that you can find.
I have to correct you, Jay, because I brought this up earlier. Your business partner says had posted an article from the Scientific American 18 hours ago saying the shared psychosis of Donald Trump and his loyalists. He didn't give an explanation. He didn't give anything that would keep the peace or unification on it. And it literally, the article discussed how a psychiatrist says how to actually kind of essentially wean people from this pathological appeal. So that is, by definition, deprogramming. So you do know people like this.
CNN literally posted a thing on their 7 o'clock news. I turned it on and I was sent pictures. They literally had a list, step-by-step list, how to deprogram Trump supporters and how to talk to them. A step-by-step list. Don't come at them aggressively. Act like you're not being offensive. Like, they are literally laying it out how to deprogram Trump supporters. And for you to be naive or ignorant in the fact that we are being censored because of our conservative beliefs, you're just being naive to the fact. I literally was deleted off Facebook and I got an alert. My old Facebook was taken down for posting, "I love God and I love the United States of America." They flagged me for that post and completely took my account down. Will you sit here on this and disavow that?
Wait. Well, where did I say anything about censorship, whether or not that's happening? I didn't say anything. And Anthony, thank you for pointing that out. I'm not generally on social media that much. I try to avoid it. So I do see that Rowie has posted that. Sarah, so yeah, I'll take that. Okay, there are some things are happening there. But I never said anything about censorship, Blake. So I don't know where that's coming from.
There is a little bit of a difference between deprogramming and censorship in some regards, even though they start blurring the lines right now. Is the only thing I have. It's starting to just come into one. Like, for example, Mike Lindell being removed from Twitter today. Like, really? What did he do?
Sold some pillows.
And what?
Sold some pillows.
He sold a lot of pillows.
He was pushing election fraud claims.
Well, but you can't prove that now because they deleted his Twitter account.
Why aren't you allowed to say that?
Right. But here's the thing.
It's a private platform, right?
I've been waiting for.
It's private.
Go ahead.
Casey, we'll talk about the private platforms next then.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Casey. Finish up.
So there's a few things that depends on your sources of information. You can actually be not really getting the full picture. And so there's something that I got and I forwarded it to Anthony. We got to figure out the better way that one show that we can talk about it on. I literally have an email from a military person that is being silenced within the military because he was on a show. And he was told that there are things that are being investigated. And he asked for us to remove videos. And he did not say anything wrong. He left everything super vague. And he said that we can talk about it. Just don't use his name and private information, of course. But I have this screenshot edited. I just got to be able to pull it up and we'll go through it one day. But this is the thing that's interesting. Like, when you start looking at some of the deprogramming and censorship, they are starting to come together. But I do think the deprogramming is worse than censorship because you're trying to manipulate someone. And this is one of the things that I don't like happening is, and Tyler, you and I had some great conversations prior to this, before you coming on the show. And I still think we're going to have good conversations tonight. It's when we're talking about we're adjusting and changing our words to manipulate someone or get something, change how they react. That's not fair. We should all just be honest and be fair on and treat people with respect. Yeah. That's how I think we should be handling it.
Yeah, I do want to make a comment on the deprogramming because I think some lines are being blurred here. In that I think everyone on this call would agree that QAnon is a problem, I think, right?
In most regards, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say in everything, but in most, yes.
So QAnon is very much kind of a brainwashed cult. So that lady that got shot during the Capitol insurrection, she was there because she believed that was the storm. Do you guys know what the storm is?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. They believed the storm was happening, and they were there very much to kill Democrats.
They were not.
No, they weren't, bro.
You can't say that.
Yeah, we can when we know people that were there. Yes, we can.
Including
Yes,
me.
we
That was
can.
not the purpose.
Yes, we
I'm not
can.
saying he was there for that reason.
Nobody there was armed except for the people that were coming in to cause disruption.
Tyler,
And those people have been
Tyler, did
labeled.
you actually have a conversation with anybody that said I was there to kill Democrats?
That's not the point.
It is.
I haven't talked to everybody at the Capitol. How could I say that?
Then how
No,
can you say the opposite?
no, we're trying to back your claim of saying that is what their intent was, is all. The reason why I say that is you can go back through my feed on my wall. I have shared numerous videos of actual Trump supporters having respect when they're there, and it is not anywhere.
You guys are getting totally defensive because I'm not calling out Trump supporters. I 100% believe there were people there for like 100% peaceful reasons. Okay.
Correct.
But it's like, I also believe there were bad actors there, just like you will find in any large gathering. And those people, those QAnon people, they were there for a very specific reason.
Okay. Then let me ask you this question. So you're bringing up QAnon, and that's cool. I get it. We're wondering. You're trying to understand where our position is with them. Suni and I both agreed that they're probably not the best people to be around.
No.
I do like that they are actually trying to get information out there, but it's seeming like they're really stretching it right now with the facts that they're trying.
They were over.
Facts.
They were over.
Are all QAnon people bad people, Tyler?
No, I think they have been misguided, though, for sure.
Sure.
Okay, so
But
just putting a broad statement and making assumptions based off what you know about QAnon is not a good thing to do.
So let me ask everybody on the call here. Who here believes the election was stolen? Okay.
That has nothing to do with QAnon. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It has
No,
absolutely nothing.
we're not Q followers.
It has nothing to do with you.
So, all right. My next question is, what are you backing that up on?
Do you want to go? Suni, go ahead.
So I did an entire show. Me, Blake, several other independents, conservatives. We did a show. We covered the election. We all watched it. We watched footage come in. We watched numbers flip. We watched a whole bunch of stuff happen in front of my face. I didn't get it from Q. I didn't know what Q was until after this entire mess started.
What about the Georgia fiasco? You don't
The
trust
Georgia fiasco is very interesting. And I want to talk about this because I talked to Tebby specifically about this.
What is Georgia? I don't understand.
We're talking about the fact that Kemp went back. It was a Republican that said something, but I'm going to tell you something. I talked to Tebby, and I'm going to assume the same here. And I shouldn't assume, but I'm going to ask, did you ever see the footage of the suitcases being brought in and out?
Yeah.
How do you explain it? Because I can tell you how the governor explained it, but how do you explain it?
What did the governor say?
He said this follows the normal chain of command. It's completely normal. No issues there.
Yeah, I remember reading that they said that people got confused and they got sent home, but upon reviewing the full tape, because that was one very small segment, upon reviewing the whole tape, they said there was nothing to be seen.
I have a question.
Keep in mind, these are
Do you believe everything that somebody says? That's part of the thing. Is there was no formal investigation. Hold on, Tyler. Tyler, stop. You're the only one that interrupts when we talk. So wait till everybody else is done, and then give me a second. Okay. So when it comes to 80,000 votes and there being a drastic flip at that exact time of night when the timestamp shows, and the simple response by the local politician and media is, "Don't worry, nothing to see here, totally normal." If you were on the other side, would that suffice as an answer to you?
Did they also try to file a lawsuit and fail?
So all those were procedural. We've covered this before, and again, Tebby had never seen that video.
So you guys don't trust the judicial system or the electoral system in Georgia. You guys are basically saying the shit is so corrupt that they lied to make Biden. Right?
Okay,
is that clear right now?
I'm going to show you off of evidence video. They literally showed.
Video is not evidence, bro. How do you know those weren't Trump votes?
Video is evidence. That is actually the definition of evidence.
Why would someone, I don't care whose vote it is, I don't care if they're for Trump or for Biden, it should not have been occurring. There should not be 4 individuals scanning the same 10 ballots over and over again, whether they're for Trump or whether they're for Biden. But guess what? We cannot investigate that because our judiciary system in this country will not allow it to happen in an effective way. So no, do I have trust?
State level judiciary system did that. And
it doesn't matter. It's happening.
Yeah, it's so
happening.
Tyler, here's the thing, guys. We all can agree. Well, I know the 3 above will agree with me on this. One fraudulent vote requires an investigation.
Thank you.
One fraudulent vote requires an investigation.
Don't get me wrong, they found fraud, but
Right.
it was the same amount of fraud they find every election because it's always
So why are you okay with that? Sorry
Oh
for
my
interrupting.
God.
Why are you okay with
there's
that?
nothing you can do about it. Like how you can't say I'm going to limit 100% of fraud. It's impossible.
Tyler, there is ways. This is the problem, and this is why I can't get along with red and blue and just be on one side. We can't be single-minded. Well, you know how much technology we have? Look, they told Elon Musk he will not be able to land a rocket back on Earth. And he did it. And NASA just took advantage of the government and just took all the money from him and just like, no, those rockets are disposable.
Yeah,
we can't accept the words that the government is just saying. We can actually investigate and come up with technology to do stuff. There is already blockchain voting apps starting to go out for the 22 election. Here in Utah, we have to vote on that this year.
So how come we didn't do any of that prior to the election?
No, it's because our government is so corrupt. We haven't. We've never got into this situation to where it's forced a such strong stance on both sides. Like one of the things, have you ever heard of Benford's Law?
Remind me. I've heard.
So it's a mathematical function that shows the curves of how stats are actually put together.
Yeah.
Both Georgia and Biden's presidential elections broke that law that has been around for, I think it's like 100 years.
By like 20%.
Yeah, significant. And in my mind, you're talking about a law that, of course, all laws are as we know as right now. So things can change.
That's interesting. I never heard that before. So
And so this is why I'm saying I didn't vote for either of them. I voted for someone. I lose every freaking election. But I'm just trying to get other parties involved. My thing is we got to start looking at all the facts, and I understand where your stance is coming from. But when we're talking about this, if you haven't heard of Benford's Law, like I have an attorney that did a full hour video explaining it and how this was busted for Biden, and then he did it again for Georgia. It's weird. It's really weird.
I have a quick question. Tyler, of all the 61 cases that went to the courts, how many times was evidence shown?
So there was a really good post that was addressed by this. Russo,
Okay.
we saw this that went into detail.
Who has the
That's
voice?
Jay.
Hold on a sec.
That's Jay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
And you can't just say the fact that no evidence was shown because of procedural errors when these are very smart people. They know that when they filed these that there was going to be procedural errors and they're going to be thrown out because then they could generate the false outrage, which you guys are now showing. That was all part of the plan. They never had any evidence to begin with. And if you guys have some, I would love to see it. But I don't think you do.
Can I ask a question?
We have it, but I
Okay.
can get it.
And for law, like that was seriously the most convincing thing I've ever
Can you
heard.
hear me?
So like I'm gonna
Yeah,
let
go ahead. Sudi, go ahead.
But other than that, like I've just not been convinced.
So
Go ahead.
there was fraud at a basic state level. When the Secretary of State changes a law and they do not go to the legislators of that state, it's fraud. You went against the Constitution.
What are you
The
talking
Constitution. You're talking about there being no election fraud. That didn't happen. It was just a made-up narrative to get all you worked up. You literally just sat here and said that.
I don't know what you're
I'm
talking
gi-
about specifically right now, though.
I
Okay.
just gave you specifics.
Do you want me to
I
give a
literally just
lowdown?
said it.
Okay, so Tyler, real quick for you. So when a state makes a law, so kind of how it works with this and within our country, it is made in the House, which is on a state level, the state legislator, and then it goes to the Senate when it goes to the vote, and then it goes to the president. So the same thing happens on a state level. It goes within our legislators, and then it goes to the Senate of the state, and then it goes to the governor's desk. Each one of those governors in each one of those states, due to COVID-19, bypassed the normal constitutional process in order to to put this into effect of these new voting laws in regards to mail-in ballots. They bypassed the state legislator and the senators within the state and deemed it as law, and that is a breach in the Constitution.
So I guess I don't know anything about that, but I don't understand how that would change the result anyway.
So
It's unconstitutional. I've been trying to talk, and I feel like you're not even listening to me, and you're being super rude. Like and you're cutting me off once again. I'm trying to explain to you where I'm coming from with my point, but you will never understand me if you don't allow me to finish a sentence. Doing this goes against voter laws. It is unconstitutional. And I'm talking about the action that Blake just explained. So you're telling me blatantly doing something that butchers the Constitution. It breaches what our Constitution holds us to. It's a breach. That wouldn't determine an election being overturned or an election being stolen. Are those not moves
I think
to manipulate the election?
Not to interrupt you, Suni, but I have a just quick question. This might solve all the answers. Tyler, do you believe in the Constitution of the United States?
Yeah.
Okay, then you should have no issue with the governing law and how these states violated the Constitution.
It's not that easy. And like, so my stance comes down to I trust the states. So each state is trusted to do an election. And that's what that whole Texas lawsuit, that was ridiculous. The fact that Texas tried to assault the election process of other states. Are you kidding me? That's the most un-American thing ever. Like, that's trampling all over states' rights. And I do not understand why so many states got in behind that in the first place. So, yeah. And like, you're basically saying you don't trust the local state governments to do their job correctly.
I can talk to a little bit on why Texas changed. We all know Rudy Giuliani ended up getting COVID or really ill. So his attorney and stuff that was really facing all this couldn't really take it. So Ted Cruz offered to jump in and participate, and that was his avenue. And so that is why Ted Cruz proposed that and went that route. Other states backed it, like my state, Utah, backed it because we are not accepting. And so, Tyler, let me ask you, this is kind of where I think there's a difference, is all of us don't agree that we believe that if there's one illegal or fraudulent vote, we need to have an investigation. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, but so I'm going to play the what about game and bring up the Mueller report.
3 years of government funding.
This is why I hate party politics, because we can go back and forth all day long, dredge it up.
Tyler, Mueller report's a great example, and you're right. Mueller report was 3 years of a presidency that was wasted on finding.
Define wasted. He arrested like 7 people and had like 12 indictments.
But so I have a philosophy on how many, they talk about the indictments around Trump. Nobody was investigated like Trump was. There's not been a president in history investigated like Trump. And fact is, politics is a dirty, dirty game. So if there was anybody that was ever investigated the same way, I would assume.
Can I just point out, Trump had more investigations into him before he even became president? That dude
is a businessman. You know what it means to be a billionaire, Tyler? Okay. Let's go back.
I have a quick question. So you just said you said the guy on My Pillow was taken off of Twitter for making statements about election fraud. But you are not going to condemn the fact that liberals and the Democrats literally pounded on their chest for 3 years that it was Russian collusion, the election was stolen, yada, yada, yada. And then it comes to find out from the Brennan files that were released, it was actually Hillary Clinton. And then that all made that entire thing up. So my question to you is, are you going to condemn those actions of people for the past 3 years stating that the votes were stolen and the election was stolen? Or is it only okay when liberals are allowed to do that? Because my question to you is, are you not playing devil's advocate in this situation? Because if you're going to say one thing, then why aren't you condemning the other?
Because I am not here to
So you mean to tell me you trusted the constitutional process? You didn't trust the constitutional process in each one of those states that you claim Russian collusion for 3 years, but you're now going to turn your back and say, "Oh, the state level government, they're so great." But 3 years ago, you were pounding on your chest saying that wasn't true. Why are you interrupting? You are so freaking rude. So rude. No one can talk, and you just keep trying to talk over everybody. When I say I'm done, then I'm done. Then you can talk. Now I'm done.
Tyler, hold on, Casey. Tyler, do you have a response to that? Because we keep asking you a question, and you are deflecting. You're talking about the Mueller report, but that also was...
I explained to Casey before I came on the show, I was not going to spend my time defending the Democrats. Okay?
But you're going to spend your time bashing Republicans.
So here's the difference, though. Hang on, because it was our conversation, Tyler. Let me correct that.
All right, Casey and Tyler, go ahead.
So here's the difference, Tyler, is you don't have to defend the Democrats. This is what my stance has been when I told you all along. I don't defend the Democrats. I don't defend all the Republicans either, because I don't fall into that category. I don't. But you can hang on, let me finish. Okay. You can go ahead and say, I don't agree with that. If you don't defend the Democrats and you don't agree with what they did to Donald Trump for this year or this situation, you can say that. That's okay. You don't have to defend a Democrat just because we're saying, hey, like we're being pinned here on this subject, like the election. You're saying trust the states, and then when we ask the question of, well, you're saying that you didn't trust the states, then we're trying to figure out where the stance is, right?
I never said not trust the states. When did I say that?
Well, the Mueller investigation has a whole lot of that stuff, man.
Well, that was a federal level investigation, though. So, okay, now I see I was very confused by Blake's rant there. So now I see the connection.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it's coming from. No one's attacking. We don't need to be attacking anybody here, but this is where some passion comes out, and that's natural and that's okay. But and we've had a lot of conversation with you, Tyler, around it. I'm curious, Jay, from your perspective, after you hearing what we talked about, I want to kind of, like, the Mueller report is a whole separate conversation. What is your perspective with the election of what we discussed?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to say, okay, as a liberal, I'll say by the way, I don't think we should use the words rant, Tyler. I don't think that's a helpful word to use on this. So I'm going to push back, even though our views probably align. I just want to make sure we keep this discussion, respectful. And I think saying someone on here is on a rant is not respectful. So, first off, Casey, Blake, Suni, Tyler, Anthony, I appreciate what you guys are saying. My understanding is this. Yeah, the American electoral system, we've known about it for 20, 30 years. Trust me, I remember Gore. I remember what a shit show that was. And were there discrepancies in a lot of the states? Yeah, we have such a messed up electoral system. India does everything electronically. They managed to get 500 million people, and everything's known within hours because they've invested in a centralized system in one of the poorer countries in the world. But they managed to do it better than we can. So I can say that, like, there's a lot of issues here. That being said, I do sometimes see that we're looking at a lot of pieces of evidence, and we're automatically connecting the lines in some ways. Like, are there things there that could be investigated further? Sure, but this happened across 4 states that were run by both Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. I just don't see that there is a consolidated effort that could have succeeded in an intentional way for the election to have been stolen. And that evidence hasn't been presented in court. At least that's not the claims that the lawyers were making. They were making smaller claims. And so one thing that for me is that I think it was a really big deal. As much as I wanted to see Al Gore become president, he put democracy first when he conceded. He put democracy first. Even though he might have been convinced in his own heart, and a lot of us on the left were convinced him to push forward, he said, no, I'm going to concede. And that was a big moment. And I think for Trump to continue to push the flames after all the challenges had failed up until June 6th, he was putting himself above the democratic process. And I think that's incredibly dangerous. Having lived in a part of the world where that shit happens all the time and can actually lead to actual civil war with thousands of people dying. It happened in Kenya in 2007. That's very dangerous to be doing.
Actually, I agree with you a lot there, Jay. The one thing I will say is we are in a very different place in the United States of America than we were during the Hanging Chad era. And I think we are at a place, like, there wasn't people, and I want to ease into this, there wasn't people being quote unquote censored. There wasn't people being doxxed. There wasn't people being, I think at the time, the First Amendment was not in jeopardy. And I think it is now. So I think the stakes are a little higher, but I 1,000,000% see your point on that, Jay. And I get it. And I think that's part of what one side appreciates out of Donald Trump is the fact that he wasn't going to back down. And we felt as though we needed somebody to fight for our voice. And that was kind of part of it. Now, circling into the censorship concept. Twitter, Facebook, they are all entities that are considered private businesses. However, they're traded publicly. So I do believe it's become a kind of a gray area to say that it's not censorship and it's not just by rule of law at this point, it is just a rules violation where it's their laws of usership, and that's fine. But when that is the main way that we communicate, I think this is the rare occasion that as a less government kind of person like me would say is the government needs to step in and create some rules that are equal on both sides. Problem is, they're not. So then it does become a censorship issue. Blake was removed. You've got posted. My mom posted something where she said, "I detest this" of Joe Biden. It was a statement. I detest him, and it was because he said I detest his smug persona or something like that. It was instantly removed from Instagram, and then there's people being blocked. And meanwhile, for 4 years, there's people that have put pictures. They've put hanging heads of Donald Trump. They've put F Mr. Orange, all these different things. So one side is allowed, one side is not. Is it censorship to the T of the law? No. Is it censorship? In my opinion, I think it is, because social media is above media now. That is our First Amendment right. So if Jay or if Tyler want to take it, and then I want Suni to have the next response, because nobody lets her talk.
Suni, why don't you go first?
I mean, when have we ever seen a president snatched off of social media for asking his followers to be peaceful? That's literally why they took him off. And people will deny it. And I can guarantee you those people didn't witness it happen. Mm-hmm. It's almost like if I didn't see it and the media didn't tell me this, then you don't know what you're talking about. Yep. It's accepting one source of information and labeling it truth and completely blocking out the other. That is not intelligent. You're actually making yourself ignorant, extremely ignorant and arrogant. When I have my page threatened to be snatched down and I have to give my ID to keep it up, when Blake has his stuff snatched down, when Cash has Cash has had his things removed. I don't see anybody on the opposite side of the political spectrum going through this. If you can point them out to me, show me. But as of right now, the only people being targeted are people on the right. And a lot of us are not even far right. Some of us are right-leaning. I'm not a Republican. Mm-hmm. I hate both parties. Both parties. I say that on every single show. So censorship is occurring. If they can put up graphic photos and whatever else they choose to do against the president, then he should be allowed to stay on the internet and say just as worse. And nobody should say a thing about it.
Well, let's let them go, Blake, before we jump in. Are you done, Suni?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll respond, and I'll say this might be one thing that unites both the left and the right now, is that big tech's too powerful. I worked at Google for 5 years. Like, I understand the decisions that they make. I used to be invested in Facebook. I got out of it because I actually fundamentally believe that the tech companies have become way too powerful. I actually do think Google should be regulated like utility in some ways, because when it's used by 90% of the world, or at least 90% of America, it is a monopoly, and it's a natural monopoly. It's not one that's maybe given by law, but the fact is that Google's AI means it will always be the best search engine. Like, there's no chance that any other search engine will ever overtake it, at least in the English language. And so when you start to think about this, we have utilities for electricity. We've had utilities for telecom. And yeah, I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg or any of these guys at Twitter. I do think those are very arbitrary. And again, I say this as a proud Democrat, and I know Democrats have been trying to regulate stuff for years. I know Republicans' inclinations are to not regulate, But I think like we're starting to see, even on the right, like you see what happens when companies like this are allowed to make very arbitrary decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that process needs to be completely fixed. And what it comes back to is, I don't know if did you guys see the that documentary on Netflix about social media earlier this year?
Yeah.
Social dilemma.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. It's all, I do digital marketing for a living. I'm part of this really messed up system, right? It's all ad revenue and it's all algorithms. And it's algorithms that are designed to do two things: fight or flight response, push your buttons. Because what we've realized about our time is an infinite resource. We only have 16 to 18 hours a day that we're awake. How much of that are we going to be spending on Twitter and Facebook? And Facebook wants you to be on there as much as possible. And the easiest way to do that is to pretend like you're being chased by a tiger. Scare the shit out of you. That's what keeps you watching. And that's what they keep doing. And they make all the decisions through that prism. One of my best friends now works in, he just joined a startup that's focusing on stopping child sex trafficking through the dark web. And he's trying to work with these tech companies. And he said some of these companies, they're just not that incentivized to go after the problem. Not because they don't have the resources, but they're just not incentivized because they have to answer to shareholders. So anyway, I could go on this forever, but I can say that I 100% agree with you that this is not a good look.
Oh, dude. You stole every point from me. Thank you.
Well, good. Cool. Blake, and then Tyler.
So, Jay, I just want to go back on a topic.
I don't disagree. I think they're big, need to be broken up a little bit. Yeah. You're not. I think Jay did a really good job there of explaining it.
Go ahead, Blake.
All right, Jay, I have a quick question for you. You said back in 2000 when Al Gore lost to Bush, and we followed the democratic process in regards to how that election was, heard and the results of it. So my question to you is, if it got to go to the Supreme Court off of the jurisdiction of legislation that happened in the state of Florida, that's why it went to the Supreme Court. The same incidents that happened this election, which the voter irregularities in regards to how it was pushed through with the election process, that's the same thing that they did in 2000 when they wanted to count certain votes. And Gore's case was heard in the Supreme Court. So why wasn't Donald Trump's team allowed to present the evidence that they had and the constitutional law breakage that we have discussed previously on this show? So like you can at least sit at home, and I'm glad that you can do that he actually was heard by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court made the decision based on the Constitution. We haven't even been given that opportunity to present that evidence or present the things that were violated in this election process to let our voices be heard. And that's why I think 75 million Americans are utterly pissed. Truly, they don't have the closure that you have about 2000. There's 75 million Americans out there that want answers, and they turn to our judicial system for that answer, and we weren't even given the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask an honest question? What would convince you guys at this point that that was a fair and free election?
Nothing.
Okay.
I think that if
you're muted,
you're muted. Yeah.
I would say, I actually would say, I don't know if I would actually be okay with it if there was a full investigation done by, I would accept it. I don't want to say I'd be okay with it. I would accept it because I think that's what people quote unquote did for the last presidency. I would accept it, but it needed to have the full attention that we'd had before. And the more everything that they're doing is making it worse. That is what's pouring gasoline on a fire, which is like when you have Rand Paul on a TV show and they're forcing him to say there was no fraud, right? Well, no, but you have to say it. The more they force everybody to just conform to this one concept where there is evidence. And the one thing I didn't say before is my personal evidence is now that we've got a platform during the election, I had 20 people myself that sent me that they investigated their personal vote and it wasn't showing in the system for the states that you're allowed to check. Cash had 100. Cash's vote didn't count. He couldn't find it. It wasn't available. And then you looked at the mathematical numbers. If you actually looked at the mathematicians that weren't allowed to be on mainstream media, there was enough. And I'm not going to say without a shadow of a doubt, because I think that's rude and stupid. I'm not going to say Trump won the election. I will not say that. But I will say that at this point, there is enough, especially in the swing states, where all we want is a real election. And the media keeps telling you that 67 cases were thrown out, but they weren't thrown out for lack of evidence. They were thrown out for procedural issues and never being allowed to show evidence, which to me is kind of questionable. Whether it's, and that's what we're saying, whether it's Republican or Democrat in charge, why are they suppressing this? And then we realize that we all admit that the election process has been broken for a long time. And we also have the issue, and I wonder if the election process will no longer be broken if term limits are put in place. Because really right now, I still don't understand how Maxine Waters has a job. She's hated by both parties, yet she continues to win. And to me, that's super weird. And why it does seem as though we don't put the time in, like Jay said, in other countries that are less developed than us have a better system. Why? Because our system is so easily manipulated, whether it's for the right or whether it's for the left. It's broken. And in this case, everybody and their mother wanted Trump out. Trump was against a lot of the super PACs. Trump was against the big pharma. Trump was against all these different things that people did not want him in for. A lot of foreign interests that were not America first. So he had a lot of reasons to be everything going against him, including 80% of the media painting this picture of dog whistles over other stuff. So that answers the question, in my opinion. Go ahead.
The AP put out a poll, and it's not just 75 million conservatives that are mad. They put out a poll. 86% of people who voted for Donald Trump believe the election there was voter fraud in this election. 40% of independents and 18% of Democrats. So it's not just conservatives that believe in this ideology that there was a stolen election. And for people to sit there and that's a large percent. That's a large percent of the country. That's more than 0.5% of the country believe that there was voter irregularities in this election. And how do you restore the faith in, coming from, I know like some of my liberal friends are like, I was like, how do you restore the faith in 75 million Americans who believe their votes not counted fairly? That totally demises our democratic process and ruins the Republic of the United States. If people do not believe in the election process, they're like, well, then they just shouldn't vote. And then the liberals will win every time. And I'm like, that should not be coming out of your mouth. Why are you saying that? Because that's not solving the issue. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, and kind of like with this whole censorship thing too, if anybody was being silenced, whether I agreed or didn't agree with them, as long as they're not promoting hateful things or threatening to kill people, I'm all for their freedom of speech. And I don't understand why that's so hard for people. Because if you go just on Twitter and look and see how people are ripping conservatives apart in regards to us not being able to talk, it's very prevalent. So I just think.
Sorry, Jay, I didn't mean to mute you. Sorry, go ahead, Blake. Finish up.
No, I'm good.
So last thing before you go, the other thing I forgot, I know ballot harvesting is this like, that sounds like a ridiculous thing. That's another one where we had, now take 20, multiply that by 100 people that talked to us about their grandparents, talked about different people that their neighbors, what it was, they were receiving multiple ballots in their mailbox. Now, does that mean there was definite fraud? No. But from a logical perspective, if somebody is a huge Biden supporter or Trump supporter for that matter, but if somebody is a huge supporter of one another and they receive like 6 ballots in the mail, or that's not even theirs, it's a previous address, logically that could be used. And this was not an issue in previous elections. And also people were paying, Project Veritas, I know is right wing, but people were paying for ballots to do this. There was a woman in Texas that has been found guilty of doing this. She has been arrested, not found guilty. I apologize. I'm sorry. She has been arrested for this connection to ballot harvesting, where she was on camera admitting to getting hundreds of dollars per ballot. This actually happened, and this would not happen in other elections without mail-in balloting. So again, where does the line of widespread happen? We have a reason to wonder what went down. Suni, go ahead.
I'm just going to address this, and I think I'm going to have to hop off. But I live in Japan. I've flown through mainland. You see what the atmosphere is like there. I have a big following in Nigeria, parts of South Africa, Australia, UK, countries. How come every one of those countries can recognize that we had a shit election and that it was stolen? Because these people come up to me and talk to me sometimes. I just found out that the guy that owns my building is a Trump supporter, and he's full-blown Okinawan. He can't vote. But he can recognize all the corruption and the fraud in our government. But the rest of us here in America, if we believe that, we're just right-wing nuts. I need for that to be explained. They don't even live in our country, nor do they get our news.
That is why they don't get our news.
But I'm trying to understand Tyler. You compare Q to right wing, and then you're like blocking out one source of information and accepting the other.
I don't think that's true.
What is not true?
So you guys have still failed to present any counter evidence.
Why does my question never get answered?
What was the question?
How can the entire world support Trump and recognize what we're going through here in America?
Well, I would say that's kind of anecdotal because I know there's a lot of European leaders actually that hate Trump. So, like, you can't just say, "Oh, the whole world supports Trump."
Do you live in those countries?
Like a thing.
Have you lived outside of the U.S.? And I'm really asking. Yes or no? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm living in Japan. I'll let you go next.
What about Jay? What about you? Jay, you got something to add there? That's how you raise your hand.
Jay, go ahead.
Well, Suni, finish your sentence or your point. And then
go ahead. I'm done. Go ahead. I'm not going to be disrespected. Fuck out of here.
Jay, you've lived abroad, correct?
Yeah, I've lived in Uganda for 4 years, and there were Trump supporters
what
and there were
anti-Trump supporters. Do people hate Trump abroad or what?
I mean, almost everyone I know can't understand. Like, they just think he's the most incompetent person ever.
In which countries are you talking about?
Yeah,
Uganda, Europe. I have a lot of friends in Germany, France, UK.
Yeah, so this is the problem with just saying, like, you can't just say, "Oh, the whole world likes Trump." Like, you can't just make that.
I'm about to go the fuck off. I've been so respectful this entire time, but you are not gonna keep dismissing me. Oh, look, what do you think, Jay? There are how many people here that have an opinion? I've been respectful and listened to every last one of yours, answer questions or tried, and you won't give anybody the respect here of doing that.
Well, if anyone
why even have a conversation with us? And why do you give me an attitude? Everybody can notice it. And you still won't answer a question.
So, go ahead.
My thing that I'm noticing is, Tyler, just what you're saying, what you're taking, and this is just honest feedback, not to be rude, but you're taking things literal when it is coming from anybody that has a different view, but you're also taking things with an open mind from Jay. So let me just explain why I say that, okay? Because Suni just said the whole world. She gave you examples. And yes, we use the whole world as a figure of speech to make it easy. But do we literally mean the whole world? Do I think China is going to back Donald Trump? No.
Taiwan is.
No. So that's where I think we're getting caught up in some of the context. And we got to look at things from a different perspective and be like, okay, so what is she saying? And what is she describing? And I shouldn't even say she. But
there are people that hate Trump, right? There are people that love Trump. There are people that hate Trump. And that's the same all over the world. Like, but we can't just go to outside sources and be like, oh, well, these people love Trump. That makes it okay.
I live here, and I was giving you my personal experience.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just, yeah.
Tyler, have you ever seen any of the documentation coming out of Italy showing their involvement in our election?
No.
There is a lot of documentation on that. I didn't get involved with any of the stuff that the other Primetime Patriots and Suni and they were all doing. I was trying to do my own research, and I came across the same stuff they have. Italy had a big involvement in our election and changing how it worked. And there's documentation for it, and I can send it to you. And it shows there is a signed affidavit showing there was a manipulation of votes. So do I disagree with you saying, well, do I agree with you saying, is it the whole world? No. So there are countries, clearly, if Italy didn't do this, we would have probably had a different election, I think. But overall, it proves they didn't care for Trump either. Absolutely. Italy hated Trump. They wanted him out. There was some reason why. I don't know that fact yet. Hopefully it will come out soon. But there are some details in there. And so one thing I encourage you to do, though, man, is like when we're talking, when anybody is trying to give advice or just give their position, don't take their words so literally as in the entire world, because again, my first example, China, we all know they're not on the side of Trump. And honestly, they're not on the side of America at all.
Well, I guess I don't even know why the conversation has to go there in the first place.
Because it's as an example with someone that cannot be manipulated from media and censorship. So if we're looking at those things, and this is coming from me because I am so hot on the censorship idea. I am pissed because it's not fair. I understand the platform idea, like you mentioned. I used to be a voice for that until I see it only being used against a certain group or at a certain opinion. Once I start seeing that, I'm done. And so I'm even getting flack from some of my conservative friends over it because I used to be that freedom of speech. It's their platform. Go create your own. But as soon as we created our own, Google and Apple pulled it down.
Yeah, I have one more thing to say. One more thing.
Go ahead.
You highlighted every racist thing that Trump said. I listened to you. You said this is what he meant. This is why he said it. Well, this is, if I pull it from here, this is what that means. So this is what Trump said. But I can't tell you about experiences from outside of the country.
Right.
You the first thing you want to push is how racist this man is, but then block out other people talking. Like, that doesn't even make sense, dude. I need you to help me understand how everything you said about Trump, as far as the whole racial shit goes, stands.
Well, I
when
guess
you don't know why he said it, you don't know if that's where they got it from. You don't know shit like that. But you're making assumptions while telling the rest of us not to do it.
I'm looking at the results.
And that's fair.
America's the most divided it has ever been. Period.
No, it's not.
Trump left office with the lowest approval rating ever for any president ever.
George Bush.
These are facts. He did nothing to unite us. That's what presidents are
Tyler,
supposed to
that's
do.
not a fact. George Bush left at, I believe, 32%, I want to say.
Yeah,
Yes.
Trump was 31.
And Biden went in with the lowest.
And he still, his voters are asking, what the fuck? Why did we vote for this
Tyler,
dude?
I'm going to challenge the approval
He's
thing.
very racist. I'm going to say that. Sorry.
I agree with you. And Suni, why I say I understand the results part is it's just asking for the facts and the details is what I believe he meant. That's all. But I understand where you're coming from. But Tyler, the part saying when it comes to like Trump not having approval, you got to understand what was done on January 6th didn't help anybody's situation either. And I think if you were to look at his approval rating prior to that, he was doing significantly more and then got screwed by people that really had something out for him. And that's where you can't compare his outing. Compare it prior to January 6th, and I guarantee you he was not even close to the bottom.
So I also have to be, I'm now fact checking in real time. So the CNN article and the New York Times article pulled two different things to get that. There's 38% and there's Bush at different ratings. There's another rating from CBS that rated that Bush's final approval rating was 22%. So again, if you pull two different polls, you can make him the most unliked president of all time, but it's actually not apples to apples, unfortunately.
I'm looking at Gallup, and it was he left at 34, not 31.
Did Rasmussen do a poll at all? I'm curious. That poll I seem to see more consistently and accurate than any of them. Go ahead, Blake. Sorry, I jumped in front of you.
I just have like if you were going to sit there and say like the world doesn't like Donald Trump, if you're going to like make the reference to the United Kingdom, don't negate the fact that the largest media in that country literally is getting their information from CNN. They are literally the largest UK media outlet in the entire UK, which is the Metro. Like, we all know this. So to be naive in the fact that you think that they're not influenced by media bias or people are making decisions based off what they're shown on the media, as we all know, and I think you all can agree, our media is trash. If you believe in our media, whether you're right wing, left wing, middle, underground, above ground, wherever you are, our media is their goal is to feed propaganda. And if you're going to believe in the media and everything that they're telling you to do, then I mean, I just truly have no words for you.
And I really think that's an important fact. What we just realized is the media that you have consumed, and I'm doing I want to use an exact example. You want evidence of the manipulation of the media to split us apart. And again, Jay and I's big purpose in our conversation was to find the issues in media of why it's separating us. The Gallup polls, if you really look at it, were equal. If you look at article headlines from every leftist media or whatever you want to call it, mainstream media, it says it's the lowest of all time, which actually also negates the fact that it's dropped 12% since the actual election, whereas Bush's was the exact same leaving the election. So if you spin any piece of information, it can make it look bad. And shocker, again, they have continued to make it look as though Donald Trump is the worst president of all time, which they have done year after year after year. And your consuming of it is based on the media that you see, when in reality, anybody that's a decent journalist will realize that they weren't comparing the correct information to each other, which again makes it more of a divide. That's a huge issue, and that is a very specific example in the media.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of, I'm a numbers guy. So that's why when I look at things and I make arguments based off numbers, that's why I'm talking about the rise of hate crimes. I'm not just pulling that off the top of my ass. I'm looking at FBI statistics, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, and then same with the stock market. Like if we want to talk about like Obama and Trump, just like comparing the two, Trump's stock market actually ended up underperforming Obama's for the first semester or first 4 years, just as like kind of another comparison.
How's that? How do you say that?
Here, I have a graph actually from an article I found on Axios.
Go ahead, Blake.
I'll share it real quick.
So I have a question really quick. So we'll get to kind of like go off of your statement about you use numbers. That's a very, I mean, you have to look at why those numbers equal what they do, which I tried to highlight earlier. You talk about FBI and hate crimes in regards to the numbers going up. But the question really isn't, are hate crimes really going up, or are there more, which it is proven there was 1,000 more different agencies out there that are able to report hate crimes around the country that were initiated in 2016, which is also found on the same FBI report. If you actually read the actual document and just don't look at the numbers, there is things that correlate. So if you put 6 chickens in a pen, they're not going to have as much shit as 12 chickens. And that's like,
so but like, just like also on top of that, though, they have also moved white supremacy to the top of their like domestic terrorist threats.
Which I think is absurd.
Well, okay, but they did it. I'm just pointing out that they did it.
Do you think our DOJ and our FBI are
I'm just trying to illustrate the fact that they think it's a threat. Whether or not you agree with that, that's up to you. I'm just pointing it out. Going back to the chart thing here. Let me share my screen.
How is that? Wait, hold on real quick. How is the stock market looking? Because I thought it was looking pretty good.
Yeah, so here...
That's why I want to see this chart, because I'm curious. I didn't go back and compare Obama strictly to Trump, but Trump has broken records.
Before we go into the actual numbers on this one, what I also want to show is sometimes you can also make numbers seem exactly how you want it. First off, Trump's stock market did fantastic, no matter how you look at it. Obama's did quite well. He was also bouncing off of depression. What Trump did with those numbers is he created added to the longest bull market in the history of the United States of America. So what the stock market does is it's made to bounce up and down. It's made to go back and forth. It's made to have peaks and have valleys. What Trump did was, by maintaining the economy the way that he did, the percentages are going to be a little bit different in terms of growth because of how low Obama took it. However, Trump's numbers are very similar and continued it to something that had never been done in the history of the United States stock market. Go ahead, Tyler.
So I just wanted to show here that, despite all the puffing and stuff, he actually came in under growth under Obama. I mean, and you bring up some valid points that he was coming up on a growth, coming off of growth. But also, I guess my counter argument to that, I would say, is I remember reading that he was pressuring the Fed to take measures such as lowering the interest rate during a period of growth. And those are measures that they usually say for a recession or when the market is in recline, to give it a stimulus or a boost to keep it on the up and up. But he was pressuring the Fed to take those actions when we were still in a growth period, which I think also might explain some of the growth that we saw. I mean, if all things being fair, I would have expected it to slow down at some point, and like that would have been a fair assessment, but he just kept pumping it. And I think that's going to end up actually creating a larger recession here on the back end when all those things start to come into effect, actually.
So when the economy recessions, it's going to have nothing to do with the current regulations that are being put into place. It's just going to be solely Trump.
It's going to be solely what?
Trump.
No.
Can I just jump in? Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
I've been slightly frustrated by the last 10 minutes just because I think like this happens a lot where we just bounce around multiple different topics without really concluding on any one of them. So we seem like we're covering a lot of ground when in fact we're actually not really coming to a conclusion on anything. So Blake, I still have your question that you asked me about the Supreme Court. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to reply to that one.
Yes, please.
And maybe address a couple other points. And then maybe we can make an intention about like what of these issues we want to kind of focus on. Because I feel like every single time someone makes a point, we just pivot into something else. And I just don't think that's solved. I don't know.
I agree.
Okay?
Go ahead, Jay, and then I'll create a game plan for us. All right.
All right. In regards to the Supreme Court, they declined 7-2 to hear it based on procedural grounds. Procedure matters, and it is really frustrating on both sides. I certainly, as a left, I've seen a lot of climate change lawsuits, a lot of other stuff that I thought should have gone forward that were not done on procedural grounds. They're very frustrating. I get that. That's why you hire good lawyers who get good arguments that are actually going to pass the test. And the fact is that all you need is 4 Supreme Court justices to agree that a case is worth hearing to hear it. And 2 justices that Trump nominated declined to hear that case. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is. And like, I think, there's a lot of, we could talk about Supreme Court reform all day long. I think there's a massive thing there, but that is a separate issue. And that's the way that it kind of worked out. And goes back to a larger issue I have about the fact that Trump doesn't always do a good job in terms of execution on a lot of the stuff that even his own priorities, but that's like a totally another issue. But that's what I would go back to what you would say is that the Supreme Court declined to hear it. And actually, I do believe, too, even the Al Gore case was also decided on procedural grounds. Like, I believe the actual case was to stop recounting the vote. Like, that was a procedural decision. So that's my answer to that question.
Got it. All right, so this is what I want to do. I know I think we've grazed it. One of Tyler's main issues is why a moderate could come out against Trump. I think we started with it. I think we've commented on stuff along the way. I think we can continue that conversation on a different episode because I think that is probably a whole discussion. That is a whole hour. But the one thing the whole purpose, and I know a lot of people would like, this isn't what Cash would stand for, which it's completely the opposite. He wants to have these hard conversations. He actually probably wouldn't have controlled himself as well as Suni and Blake did. But with that said, the concept is solution. And we've talked about the difference in media. I gave an exact fact. I think Tyler even heard that. And if numbers matter, it's comparing apples to apples. And I think that division comes from the media. So we're going to talk about the last thing we're going to talk about is solution-based. I'm going to say in tomorrow's Conservengers that we are going to talk about how I think we're going to talk about the whole opening of the country right now and California opening and New York opening and how interesting of timing that is when cases are still a huge issue for COVID. I think we'll have a little fun with that tomorrow night during Conservengers, but I want to come to solution-based stuff. And before we lose some of the group, I do want to remind you guys that if you want to support Cash on top of the different stuff we're doing, I'm going to go on live after this. On his and if you guys want to join me, it'll be 15-minute update on Cash. I'm going to pull up some videos of him talking. Also, we have the t-shirts up. We've done a lot. We've sold over, I think, like 150 or so t-shirts. We've got that. Free cash for change. Get it? Like a play on words. That's fun. Be the change. Free cash. Lee Kelly. And again, all this, the proceeds on that are going to support. Great job by Primetime Patriots the other night. They went on his YouTube channel and raised several $100s again for everything that he's going through. So if you want to check that out, all you got to do is go to #BeTheChange.com. I've got way too many different things up. Where is it? Hashtag. And also, this is a great way to stay in touch. If we do get taken off social media for any way, shape, or form, we can always email you guys. We own our own list. That is the good part about our own website. So #BeTheChange.com. Make sure you subscribe. That's how you know where to find us. If SHIT or shit hits the fan. And also that is where you go to the shop area in order to buy those cash shirts. Okay. And all those cash shirts for people that have bought them already, I'm waiting for Thursday, and then we'll start actually going through those numbers. So that's it on that. Let's talk about solutions. Jay, I would love for you to lead this conversation because you're the one that we kind of started having this. Like, where do we go from here? People always ask that, where do we go?
So where we go from here is, I think the first thing is that we need to start to establish common grounds, right? Okay, someone actually explained to me, like, what, the NFL is full of people hitting each other, right? What makes it different than pure violence is the fact that there are rules, there are referees, and there are like systems where you may hate the referee's call, but you respect the call. There is at least some sense of like a shared reality in terms of who ended winning the game, et cetera, even if there's always controversy. So the question is, how can we do this in the real world? Like, back in the day, 60, 70 years ago, we had 3 broadcasting companies, right? And everyone watched Walter Cronkite. There was a shared reality of what news is. That has broken down, right? And so the question is, how do we start to create a shared reality? Because if we can't even agree on the facts, how can we even have a civil debate, right? And I'm just trying to think, and I'm really open to this, but some ideas that I've had is, are there any sources of information out there, maybe, so for example, Wikipedia, that might be considered to have some sort of like nonpartisan, ground of information that we can, or at least sources that we can look at? Number 2, is it the case that we just have to accept that there is no such thing as unbiased? And we just have to make sure that all of us are looking across the spectrum at sources on both the left and the right to make sure that we're getting lots of different biased information that we can sift through. And the third thing I'm thinking about is, how can we get more local? And I think about this in terms that we've really segregated ourselves in terms of geography, right? Like we don't necessarily know our neighbors anymore. We don't have to associate with anybody we don't agree with 100%. And local news is dying. And local news was the source of where we had we all could agree that there was a fire at the barn last night. That is an undeniable fact, right? And we could all come together. And we're starting to see local news get taken over by biased sources, where you have people on both the left and the right. Let's just start up news in every podunk town across the country and have it just be a bunch of spin, pretending to be local news. So I don't say I have a solution here, but these are some of the things I'm starting to throw out. And then on the tech side, what I would say is, how can we regulate tech in such a way that the decisions about whether to ban or not ban somebody is not based on some guys sitting in a tech office in San Francisco? How can they be more publicly accountable? And is it through government? But I also know a lot of people on the right don't trust government. So how can we possibly get there?
It's a great question.
I like that. So one thing I want to add, I guess, is we have moved straight from the age of information into the age of disinformation, and kind of to what Jay was saying, we need to be able to establish some kind of center ground of facts for a shared reality. Otherwise, there is no moving forward. So, and that's one of the challenges that I've experienced on your page too, Anthony, is I try to provide a wide variety of sources to back, whenever I make any kind of claim, I try to, and I switch it up between different sources, but every single time it gets called into question. So it's how are we supposed to move forward if nothing is ever taken at face value?
That's a great question.
I think what we should do is deprogram an entire group of people, and then it'll be one source of information, and then we can move forward. Truly.
Great idea.
I think that would be perfect.
To directly answer your question, Tyler, so I get what you're saying. And the thing is, all of the articles that you have presented, I would say that I've looked at 85%. Sometimes I know there's certain sources that I move past, and that's unfortunate, but I only have so much time in the day. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you on here, is not because I want to dismiss you ever, or why I'm always if you're not willing to have a discussion, There's, as you can see, I take grenades on my page and I try to have a civil conversation until finally I lose my mind. And even then, I'm still never being ridiculous. If anything, the worst thing I call somebody, and I think I called you once, a troll. That's literally the worst that ever comes out of my mouth. And even that's not okay. Now, with that said, the media that you send, with the articles don't have a liberal or a leftist tone. They've got a spin. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to start looking at on our sources, and how, I don't know how we educate everybody else, but a spin is not okay. Spinning means you're changing the news. A tone means you can have some humor. A tone means that you clearly feel a certain way. To be honest, I know a lot of Democrats hate Tucker Carlson. He doesn't spin the news. He has a heavy conservative tone. Tone is okay. Tone is what makes us the ability to agree to disagree. And the ultimate thing that I can say, Tyler, is the way that always bothered me with the way that you came on to my page. And I think the way that even Jay and I discussed something yesterday is that we all have to be willing to realize that we are not 100% right, because the media that we are being fed is always going to have that bias. Jay's right. Everything has a bias. We all have a bias, period. There's nobody that is, when people say I'm a, what is it called? Empath. Nobody's a true empath. If you're an empath, you wouldn't leave your house. You'd be crying all day. Like that's a true empath. There is no such thing as no bias. So with that, the key is remembering that nobody is wrong. Those Q people that you talk about, they're not fully wrong. They're not wrong. They have different viewpoints, and some of them have been a stretch, 100%. The great thing that about that group that I always say is their key message on the beginning of their videos and beginning of their stuff is, I encourage you to do research for your own. Whether or not they go too far, which I think I agree, a lot of the stuff recently, especially after the presidency, has been way too far. But their key is always do your own research. And if you feel the same way, great. And nobody that listens to all the Q stuff should not be doing their own research. Nobody should be following what I say, what Suni says, what Blake says, or Casey blindly. Go, that's interesting to me. Let me try to look it up. Then you say, where do I look it up? That's a great question. So you look at the article and you have to learn how to decipher spin and tone.
So I get that. Everything has a spin or bias, but I want the response to be a counter article with like opposite bias or spin, not just an outright dismissal of what I present.
That's true. And the one issue with that is I'm combating, and I think a lot of us are at this point, combating 300 of these at a time. And a lot of times I've posted counter articles. I don't have the time.
No, you haven't. Not one yet. I've been waiting.
No, not to you.
Oh,
I haven't to you. I have in the very beginning on our first couple points, but I have posted so much evidence, so much stuff on my page in the past that I can't expect you to go back and look at it all. But if I can pick apart the logic in the article that you're providing, if I just said I don't read the American Review because it's garbage, you have a point there. But fact is, I have on numerous occasions provided articles, provided response, and you are able to go on one or two people's pages, pick fights, and use one article here and there and not realize that I'm also having a discussion with 400 other people, which is why I was pushing to have this discussion right here.
I get that. But I'm making more of a general statement of that is something that I want to see from more people. Right. So I'm not just trying to call out you specifically. I'm talking about anybody. They get into an online conversation with somebody. If someone presents an article and that article has some kind of spin or bias, then that needs to be called out with a opposite article, not just outright.
But spin and bias can be counterbalanced. It can be counteracted by logic. It doesn't need a core article to go back. Logic, if you can take words out of an article that clearly don't make sense, that's a way to disprove a spun article.
Yeah. So that FBI hate article that I posted, you took issue with that, and that was nothing but figures and numbers.
And then I backed it up with figures and numbers of why those numbers are skewed, and you still are arguing about the hate crimes.
I haven't looked at that yet, so I apologize.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
I'll send you the article.
Okay.
So anyways, That's my concept. And then the question becomes, how do we help? We continue to have conversations like this. We continue to bring somebody like Tyler and Jay on, and we hash out the conversation so everybody can see the same stuff. Because Tyler, you're presenting your information. We are having the discussion as a group. It saves time. We have an hour here instead of me spending 8 million minutes on my cell phone and getting miserable where tone isn't listened to in any way, shape, or form. But as a whole, I don't know how to fix the media except be it. I really don't have another solution. Anybody else?
That is the only way you can fix it, is to use the power of the people, right? And just start doing and sharing and actually doing your part in the system. That's what we have to do, is use it against itself. Now, it gets hard because us that have some more of a conservative view, it gets difficult. This is where censorship is a weird topic for me, because my stance has changed literally over the last 2 years because of watching what they are doing to Trump, what they did to many other people, and even an innocent man of Mike Lindell. What is he going to do? Sell you a pillow and a mattress topper? Sure. And so it gets weird. But if we can start having these conversations, being civil with each other is another big part. And that's the part that I love about what we're doing right here. And we're seeing it in the comments that people actually love it too. If we can start having these conversations, we will get to solutions. If we hide these conversations and be in echo chambers, we will never solve anything. And so that's the big thing that I see in this, is we got to be that change that we want to see, is all we want to do.
Blake, go ahead.
So to further go off of what you're saying in regards to moving forward, if you take a step back, truly, if we all took a step back away from big tech, away from social media, and you went out and actually talked with your neighbors, you'd find that we're not that much different. The American way and how we ideology and how we think is truly not that different. But the rhetoric that's pushed out through the media is such a divisive tone, whether it's left or right, has divided the American people, and they have the complete control because people go to the news for information, when in reality they have these subtle messages that are underlying why we're in this position that we're in. So I think if truly what I believe and what I've done, and I don't have any bias with media because I think it's all trash. Truly, I think it's all trash. I agree with you in the retrospect, Tyler, that I like to look at facts and numbers, but I also like to look at what's making those numbers factual, or why are they presented in the way that they are. And I think if we all as a nation took a step back truly for a moment and quit looking at the propaganda which makes us so divisive and which leads to why we're in the situation we're in, the place would be in this country would be in such better condition moving forward, where we can actually think for ourselves. We can judge things based off of what we see, not based off what someone is telling us. And I think as a nation, that's how we come together. When we come together in the things that will make us united, rather than focusing on the things that make us divided. And that's what I think that we should do as a country in order to move forward and create that common ground, is to find the things that we do agree on. Then we can start to sit there and formulate the ideas that we don't agree on.
Agreed. Well said.
Casey, you got anything?
I just said well said.
I know you got anything else.
Do I got anything else? I could go on all along about censorship,
Well, I mean,
right now, but I don't want to.
in terms of a solution base, and I think I'll say one more thing if you give yourself a chance to think about it. And it really is to the point, actually going back to what Tyler said, very specific of we are now in an age of misinformation. And there is self-responsibility in the sharing of shitty articles. And I do think that, in total honesty, I think your articles, take away the ones I don't read, but take the 80% that I do, they're the epitome of shit articles. And I think that having that self-responsibility to look at them and go, is there something that's emotionally targeted in this article that clearly is creating a spin, and say, should I share this? Sharing FBI statistics, I can disagree with them for different reasons, but at least it is a core specific without a spin, and we can say, look here, get it. So when you talk about the hate crimes rising, you can post that, and then we can have a logical discussion about the data. Sending something from the whatever journal or the National Review, all these different things that clearly have this ultra tone, isn't going to create positive conversation. So I think the self-responsibility and how we share our information, that is my solution. Sharing, go ahead, Blake.
And I think like how he's saying share your information, like how you're sharing your information via the messages is the same tone that you're presenting as on this conversation. It can come off very aggressive. It can come off very demeaning to anybody else's opinion but your own. And that's where I think like you're not going to make any progress if that's how you come off. And I'm not trying to demean you as a person or your character. It's just moving forward when you're trying to approach a situation or trying to get a point across, you lose the conversation immediately when you start to present it in the way that you do.
Agreed.
So one thing.
Go ahead.
One thing. Okay, so I know this comes from a source you guys don't like, but the New Yorker a couple months ago talked about the last time we had such a crisis in or one of the times we had it was the 1930s, right? It was fascism was on the rise. Like it really was a bad time for America in those years, in which it really was a question of, was this going to succeed? And it actually talked about something that I'd never heard of before, is that there was a whole decade-long initiatives around forums for debate. And apparently it happened in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm reading straight from here, that there was a 5-year experiment where they had lectures in which, and I quote, and this is from the New Yorker, speakers defended fascism, they attacked capitalism, they attacked fascism, they defended capitalism. Within the first 9 months of the program, 13,000 of Des Moines' 76,000 adults had attended a forum. It got so popular that the U.S. FDR appointed a commissioner of education, and it got federal funding, and 2.5 million people had participated. And that kind of stopped with World War II, but like that's happened before in American history. And I do think that a forum like this is great for sparking maybe a new version of that. Because I do think that if we ignore some of these problems, they're not going to go away. And the only way is to give it sunlight. And so, yeah. And I think, Anthony, going back to what you said about safe space, a safe space where we can come together. And I appreciate you having that here today.
Yeah. And I like learning. And I didn't know that there was that research program. And think about what can be done in today's era, what can be done with proper dollars and funding, and to be able to have that exact same 5-year study you can do in 6 months. It can be done quickly and can be done with many more millions of people to try to figure that out. So yeah, I think that's a solution-based system. Now the question is, how do we continue that? So I think we can continue that on another episode. We talk a little bit about, do we work with a local legislature someplace and start something up? You actually can go to local politics and get a bill started. That's how the US of A works, and possibly be a part of it. And that would be something that is the basis of Be the Change. So I really like that, Jay. I've never heard of that program, which I think is fascinating. What I do want to hear out of that, it's fascinating that it was ended because of World War II.
Yeah.
It's always fascinating that when we are coming together as people, wars make sure that those kinds of things are thwarted. But that's a different story for a different day. Who wants to rap first?
Kaylee. Oh my gosh, Kaylee.
Oh my hell.
Suni. Oh my God. Someone keeps asking me how old I am. I'm 26 years old.
That's a lie.
Well, Jay had mentioned how when you have a foul in the play, or how refs officiate games, the coaches have what's called a challenge card. So if there is a discrepancy, or they see something that's not right, they throw that card, throw the flag, the refs come on the field, they review the play, all of them, and they come to a consensus together. We didn't do that as a country. Both sides. I don't care about Democrat or Republican. We didn't do that as a country. There was a challenge thrown, and the refs ignored any type of review. So I think that's why you have a group of angry Americans. Rightfully so. People wanted to freak out about Russiagate and all these fictitious things that Trump did, which was literally speak to a world leader, which is what all presidents do. I'm not sure if I might be the Debbie Downer here today. I'm not sure that these conversations are going to do anything if people aren't willing to sit here and listen and actually have conversations. This conversation for me was a complete waste of my time. Thank you, Jay, for being here. Honestly, because you were the most open-minded one. You were actually here to have conversation with us. I'm not one to mince my words. Everybody knows that from watching me. I feel something. I'm gonna sit here and observe the atmosphere that we were in. I feel completely disrespected. And you guys can have these shows, but Suni will not be in attendance if we have this guest on. I was respectful, I was nice, and I was more than happy to hear your sides and have productive conversations. But in my opinion, that's not what happened here tonight. I don't know what this was for. Or why you wanted to spend your 2 hours talking to us.
I agree. Like, I think we should have focused more on how do we create common ground. I think that's super important. But like, I mean, it was just super. I mean, it's uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me because I can get heated, I can get emotional, but like I never ever I don't disrespect people, or I'm not trying to make people feel like I'm demeaning to them. So I would never do that. I just think it's unprofessional. And here, I know this is just a talk show where we come on here and talk, but it just makes my mind wander. So I agree. Having open dialogue is super important where we can talk, but if you are going to totally not listen, then there's no point to have these conversations. And you should probably just stay in the comments.
Casey.
So I agree with you guys, but I also will slightly disagree. If we don't have these situations that we run into, we will never know how to solve them, right? I understand we all can come from a perspective of we know the solutions, but if we don't run into these situations, we might not experience them to where we can solve them. So I always believe in failure is a sign of success. And that's how I look at it. I'm not saying we failed by any means. I just look at opportunities like, hey, this was a good thing that we could all notice. Like, we could have actually been focusing on more positive and progressive movement into a positive in another way. And we can take that and learn from it, just like Blake said. And I agree to that. But I know, but you're used to me being the devil's advocate in most scenarios. But I'm trying.
I'm looking at these. I'm reading the comments. I agree with you. I agree with you.
That's my thing. Is I don't want us to all look at this and Tyler, thanks for coming on. Jay, thanks for coming on. I know it's difficult to have different views, and I am always the one that usually is in. Not always, I should say. I usually can buy into different views, and so I end up in your place on occasion. So I get it, but no one's here to attack. No one's here to disrespect someone. This could be a first experience in how we handle a talk show and how we give everybody their opportunity to talk. But this is a building block, and that's what we can build on from here.
Yep. I'm going to have a final comment at the end of it, but I want Jay and Tyler to also have their chance to wrap. And then right at the end, we'll have Suni, Blake, and Casey and I stay on and give a quick cash update. And I'll tell you, I'm going to go live on his page later as soon as I get a hold of Erica. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I was just going to say maybe there was some confusion about what my role in the show was here, because I was always coming under the impression I was going to explain to you guys why I don't like Trump. I'm sorry if things got heated and you thought I was disrespecting you, but that was definitely not the intention at any point in time. And it's important to have these conversations. If you guys are interested in like finding the middle ground, I feel like I'm actually in the middle ground, because I do have quite a few conservative qualities that we never got to talk about in today's show. So, it's going to happen with communication. And yeah, I did not mean any disrespect, and I'm sorry if you took it that way.
Jay, go ahead. You're mute. Oh, did I mute you? I might have muted you. Sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No worries. I agree with a lot's been said. Suni, I apologize if you had all felt disrespected during this conversation. That's never my intention, at least. I would say honest, Tyler, look, I definitely agree with a lot of, I share your perspective on a lot of things. I guess I think though what you just said right there about, hey, I came on to explain my belief, it sounded like you came on for a one-way kind of interview. And I'd like to think,
I would agree with that assessment, because that was the way I talked about it with Casey.
okay.
Yeah.
And at least I know I
share my viewpoint, so I guess that wasn't clear.
Yeah, and I would encourage you, because I encourage all of us to be two ways. It's a two-way conversation, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is my first time appearing on one of your shows. I had no idea what to expect. I definitely am glad I'm here, and I've definitely enjoyed my time and listening to all of you. I would love to, if we have a future conversation, to kind of choose an area to kind of deep dive, because I think just to give an example, this Benoff, what's it called? Benoff's Law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually Googled it, and I saw some stuff. I had never heard of it before. Reuters did a write-up where basically it said it can't. They had some pushback on it. They didn't dismiss the law. They said and it's like, oh, okay, so now they're bringing in professors to talk about the law, and that's where we can start to have real debate.
Yep.
There's where we actually talk about the technical aspects of this, and that's where we can have this, and that's where I feel like where we can start to find commonality. Let's do a deep dive together. Let's bring all our sources together. Let's talk about why you trust this guy and not this guy, and vice versa. And I feel like if we can have more of those targeted discussions, I feel like we can cover a lot of ground there.
Agreed. All right, I'm going to wrap this up real quick, and again, Tyler, we started out the episode talking about a little bit of the issues with Trump, and we did have some of those discussions, but I do think there is something to be said about when a conversation goes on topics that you were plenty educated to have the discussion because you had your perspectives. I think that's a valid way to look at things, is you just wanted to be heard instead of have a discussion. And I would like to have more of the conversation in terms of your issues with Trump, but I think it's, and to go against what kind of Blake and Suni said, I think this was an incredibly productive conversation because we saw two different ways of handling debate. And we saw two different ways of having conversation. And you can literally see how people in the comment box gravitate towards a open-minded discussion. Even though almost everybody in the comments disagrees with Jay, they loved listening to him because they listened because he was open. Where unfortunately, Tyler got a lot of flack. And it wasn't because we didn't talk about Tyler's topic. We did. We started with that. And we had a little bit of time. I wanted to come back to it, but things spun. And even in the beginning, there was this constant talking over specifically Suni. And it was very odd to see. And I think it's important for us to have those discussions to see and maybe somewhere deep down, Tyler can look at it and go, maybe I'm not going about things the right way in terms of having a conversation. I know that I'm not perfect. I know that the way I say things are not always great. And I also know, when I said that sometimes when I say somebody's a troll, I probably shouldn't say it because I know it's just fighting words. It's the same thing in the very beginning of Be the Change when Cash and I started talking about all lives matter. If you're taking somebody that's hurting, whether you disagree with the quote unquote movement of Black Lives Matter and you throw fuel on a fire and say all lives matter, I think we all feel that in a different way. But those words, that rhetoric sparks more division. So why say it? It's not worth it. You're not really doing anything with it. So sometimes the attitude of not being able to be open-minded in a conversation and to just want to speak is counterproductive. And I think seeing that is very important. And I hope you don't think one or two people said, well, you were attacking him. And I don't think that at all. I've seen sometimes when we lead towards attacks, and I think that's incredibly not accurate. But the only thing we didn't do is fully cover your topic. We started with and didn't end. But with that, I think these conversations are incredibly important because it does show you that people can change, and it shows you that people can listen, and it shows why we can agree to disagree instead of you're wrong, I'm right. And I think that's very important. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it with that. I want to really I'm going to wrap this, and then we're going to talk about cash real quick. Tyler, Jay, cannot thank you guys enough for coming on the show. And we'll continue to talk. And again, if you guys know, and I said this to Jay, part of the problem is there is no conservative voices on Democratic and liberal shows. First off, I always say liberal, but I'm liberal myself. I have a lot of liberal ideologies. I've lately voted conservative. I was a lifetime Democrat. If you know of anybody that has a decent followed show, I think every single one of us that is conservative in this moment is more than willing to go on a show and take a beating from 7 different hosts. I don't care. Bring me on a show. Let me know. Let Suni know. Let Blake know.
Thanks.
Pride Time Patriots. We would love to have that conversation. It's very hard to have people on this show to have that conversation. So to that, I give you guys ultimate kudos. Thank you guys for being on the show. Jay and Tyler, take it easy.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful week.
You too. All right. Hold on, let me remove that. All right. Okay, guys, we've all talked cash this week. Thank you for being patient. I appreciate you. Blake needs his beauty sleep. I know, Blake. You do. You look like crap. Okay, so
and I still look better than you.
I was waiting for that one.
Unite, don't fight. Okay, so real quick, Blake,
you gonna get these hands.
Blake, you talked to Cash. Go ahead. What's the last thing? I haven't talked to him all day. Today's been hell, but go ahead.
I'm the number one caller. He uses all of his, talk to.
Well, we lost Blake. All right.
I gave an update. I haven't talked to him today. I know he was making his rounds, but he was in good spirits. We were on the show talking about last night his movement. Awesome. Another update. I told everyone to go out and do 5 acts of kindness today, and for some reason, I don't know why they didn't just people messaged me from Be the Change and were like sending me videos, sending me pictures, sending me notes that they were leaving on people's cars. They were paying for the people behind them and the drivers through Dunkin' Donuts. All of those people were sending me videos and pictures of what change they were bringing in the world today. So if you guys could do that again tomorrow and send those in, it's amazing. Truly, all of you that messaged me today and sent those acts of kindness that you guys did it was humbling.
Blake,
so keep doing that. Be the change.
So
depends. Are we doing that again or what?
Not Contravengers yet. Blake, do me a favor. If you can't do a whole, you've got the access to Be the Change. Go ahead and do a whole post on that tomorrow if you can. Is that cool?
Yep.
Cool.
My little tootie.
Okay, Casey, I know you talked to him as well. And then Blake, don't worry, we're about to wrap.
I haven't talked to him yet. I'm expecting a call from him.
Oh, you haven't talked to him since he's been in the joint yet. Okay.
No, I got a message today saying he'll be calling me today. So
nice.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Got it.
Just so you all heard that.
When was the last time you talked to him?
I talked to Cash yesterday. We had a good conversation, and we talked about a few things that he wanted to put in the works. I'm not gonna spill the beans yet, but there's a few things he wanted to do.
You know what that means? Black thing. It's only between them.
It's a black thing. Yeah, you guys are not in the crowd. I'm sorry.
I'm freaking black.
No.
Yes, I am.
No, but we laughed a lot. Me and Cash get together. It's a fun time. We laughed. And he was just like, I miss you, man. I'm like, I miss you too, Cash. I can't wait till you come back. But it was a good conversation. It was actually, I don't get emotional, but I haven't talked to him in weeks, and I'm used to starting my day with Cash and ending my day with Cash because he's always like, yo, let's get on the live right now. So I got a little teary-eyed talking to him.
Yeah, I was reading him some comments people said. I've got a video that I'm going to play on his when we're done with this. So people are talking about current events. Here's the deal: tomorrow night, Contravengers. All of the PTP crew is invited. So let anybody that wants to come on. So that'll be tomorrow night, episode 6. Did you say no? Did you shoot yourself in the eyebrow on that one, Blake? Is it just you two?
I will be there.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. So tomorrow night, there's that. We'll talk about, this is what we're talking about tomorrow night. Biden's first few days in office, opening the country, Hopefully I'll get Bobby on tomorrow night too. I think we'll try to keep it semi on target and have core concepts. So I think that'll be where we do some current events and have a little PTP/Conscious Avenger spin. Also, before I forget, while we still have a good following, pretty excited about Change Makers tomorrow. I got to make sure that we can get it to work. But we've got Denzel Henderson, awesome guy. He's got cerebral palsy and he's a motivational speaker on his page. He doesn't have the biggest following. You guys should all follow him. We'll talk about it tomorrow night. He is all about love, and that's what he'll constantly talk about. And if you don't smile after talking to Denzel and listening to Denzel talk, I don't know. I can't really help you on that one. So that'll be fun. We'll do about a 30-minute show of Change Makers tomorrow night.
What time are these?
Wouldn't you like to know? This one's at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and I believe is the other one I set up for 9 or 10. It should be on the Facebook page. Anybody, it's on there.
There will be shows all night. PTP, we do our show at 7, so it'll be a good night for information, good night for listening to speakers, and then having some humor before y'all go to bed.
Yeah. How can people find, while you got you guys on there, how do people find you?
Are you too? Oh, go ahead.
First off, you go to OnlyFans. My page is conservative_bottom. Just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. Guys, I like to bring humor. You guys can follow us on Primetime Patriots. We are Primetime Patriots in the Primetime Patriots. We have a second page just in case for censorship. You can also follow us on Instagram and not Parler. Wow, I missed that place. Instagram and Telegram are where we give you guys up-to-date news. Like I am updating it and Kaylee is updating it all day long, and it comes at you like a text message. So you can stay on top of news before it even breaks. Like I get my information before majority of Newsmax and OAN do, so they can shove it. And that's the tea, sis. Also, hashtag we are black. I would love to see that in the comments because we are black. Thank you.
You know you are, because you're experiencing the real racism. So Trump supporters, welcome to being black, man.
Hashtag we are black.
I just put something in the box, and if I have more, I want the Primetime crew to go check that out. I have a link tree that has your guys' shows also in it, but I don't have all. You have 78 links, so I need to add more of your links in there. So if you want anything, Be the Change or Primetime Patriots, go there, and I will get more of that on there as well. So, cool. Do
OnlyFans or no?
No, we'll go and leave the OnlyFans off, okay?
Well, if they want to support $6.99 until the end of the month, love you.
All right. So as long as I can get a hold of Erica, I'm going to go under Cash's account, and this might be the last. We don't know when they're going to pull the Facebook page, so we're going to go. I'm going to go on his Facebook page soon. If you want to join me, you can do that too. And I've got a video from Cash. Also, got some funny photos. He has created his own streetlights in jail.
Yeah.
All posed for a picture. It was hilarious.
It really has.
It was great. It's so funny. So a couple people are asking why we're raising. I mean, we're raising it for legal funds. We don't know if he's going with how he's exactly going with certain stuff in terms of the legal ramifications of everything that is going on. And also we're trying to shift people over from his Patreon, which got shut down because he was at the Capitol, which is
ridiculous,
fascinating. So that was kind of his money that he was going to continue to put videos up, make sure people are still supporting so that it would support Erica. They're sending money to all the different parents that need whatever for the different kids. Cause Cash has a lot of baby mamas. So they are, we're making sure that everybody is taken care of. That was the one thing Cash wanted. And we don't know if he'll be out in a month or if he's going to be out in 4 years. We really don't know. So at this point, that's what we're doing. And we're going to shift everybody over to the Be the Change Patreon. And that is going to be where I have Erica share videos. I continue to do motivational Mondays. Maybe Blake can do a how to be a bottom once in a while. I don't know.
Let's not and say we did, please.
Bitch, I'm verse.
Let's not and say we did.
I'm going to do a little podcast on Be the Change about being black in America. And if you guys want to come over there,
I will
and watch,
disavow this whole organization if you allow that.
I guess we can have Suni come if she wants. She lives in Japan, so she really
damn. You know what, Blake? I got you.
Are you gonna call me after this? Because I need you too.
Whatever.
Yeah, there's the donations page for Cash as well. I know you guys have done an amazing job. So you guys, more than when he hears what you guys have given, he freaks out. He's like, how the hell did I have this much impact? And and seeing the articles and the people talk shit about him, it's like, I don't think you ever know what it's like to motivate people. And I've gotten messages saying that in this last year, and we're not talking one or two, we're talking several people, and I know Casey has seen the emails as well. People literally were on the brink, or if not a day away from killing themselves. And hearing the message, whether you can agree or disagree with conservatism or not, to be able to help somebody through a dark time and to get them out is probably more than most of the people have ever done in their whole life talking shit. And he's done it in 6 months. Blake, what's up?
Anthony, I also forgot to leave out a detail of how I raised so much money yesterday.
Did you nipple it out? What'd you do?
I may or may not have put my feet on camera.
Seriously, no, you didn't. I watched the whole thing.
Oh, Jesus.
But if I would have, we would have got a lot more money. I got my little cuticle thing, so we're good to go.
I'm not stoned. I'm just tired. Just to be very clear, I literally got my truck stuck today. All right, I'm going to play those videos. I'm going to let Blake go to sleep. What'd you say? We will start the hashtag feet for cash.
Oh, God.
Get it? Feet for cash? It's funny.
I think we're also, I'm going to take away some of the t-shirts on the page. And by the way, and we're going to start doing some phrases like agree to disagree, like be the change type stuff. Stuff like that. So I think that'll be coming in the next couple weeks when I can get my head above water, because right now I'm sinking. But I love you guys. So not the way that Blake likes to have things sunk in him. But anyways, all right. I think we're good there, ladies and gents. Have a great night.
Bye.
See you guys.
See y'all later. Bye.